Ooh, 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 ooh. Bintu Agne, there you are, number one again. I want you to know that I was doing a podcast with my friend Jamie Lee Curtis the other day, and she said, I want to know about Bintu Agne. She is first all the time. And I was like, wow, everybody notices that about Bintu Agne. Hi, Elizabeth Lamont. Hi, my friend, Elizabeth Lamont. If you're ever in the Palisades here in Los Angeles, has one of the best stores around, home stores. She's a great friend of mine for, gosh, 25, almost 30 years. And she has a beautiful, beautiful store. And she's a beautiful, beautiful human. And I love her. I love her. So I'm so happy to see her there. I'm so happy to see all of you. Lisa Schlossberg, hi, how are you? Sue Edwards, hi from Waco, Texas. I want to come there to Waco, Texas, actually. G. Boston, hi from Massachusetts, hi from New Zealand. I really want to go to New Zealand, too. I really, really want to do that. We can't go there yet, I know, but I really, really want to go there. So I want to thank all of you so much for coming on here today. C. Marmat, hi, beautiful Maria. Wow, thank you. It's Holy Wednesday, halfway through Holy Week. This is one of my favorite weeks. It's kind of like the week right before Thanksgiving. It has a different tempo for me. It evokes a lot of memories for me, a lot of emotions for me. And I really like it. And I try to settle myself during Holy Week. I try to use it as a time to reflect and thinking about what I want to write in this Sunday paper. But hi, Susie Scheinberg. That's another great friend of mine. But speaking about this Sunday paper coming up this Sunday, I hope all of you get the Sunday paper. But we're going to have this conversation is going to go in the Sunday paper, and we're talking about our mental mess. I like actually cleaning up your mental mess, Dr. Caroline Leaf. I really like this. I've been following her. And I'm really into cleaning up my mental mess. I'm really into understanding my mind, understanding my reactions, understanding where they come from, understanding how I can better react when something triggers me. And so I'm always reading about the mind. I obviously do a huge amount of work in the brain health space. And this book here is really powerful. Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, 5 simple, scientifically proven steps to reduce anxiety, stress, and toxic thinking. I mean, who does not want to reduce anxiety, stress, and toxic thinking? And why? Because that makes you more peaceful. It makes you a better leader. It makes you a better person. It makes you a better partner, a better parent, everything. If you can reduce your anxiety, reduce your stress, reduce your rumination, you go out into the world from a different place and space. And that's really one of the gifts of age, is understanding your mind, getting a hold of it, and going out into the world from a different place and space. So that's what we're going to talk about today with the doctor. There she is. And she's been really gracious in promoting this talk, so I'm really excited to be talking with her. She has 4 kids like me. Hi.
Hello. Hi, it's connecting. It's just,
Yeah.
I can't see you yet.
You can't see me? I can see
No,
you
can you
beautifully.
see? There you go. Hi.
Hi, how are
Hello.
you?
Oh, I'm so good. How wonderful to meet you. I've been admiring you for years.
Oh, well, I've been admiring you. I was just talking about you. I've been following you on Instagram, following your book,
Thank you.
following your advice.
Oh,
And
thank
and
you.
and I'm so happy that you're here, because I was just saying that it's a gift to all of us what you're writing,
Oh,
because
thank you.
all of us should be able to control our thinking. All of us should be aware of our brain health, and all of us are experiencing, I love, anxiety,
Yeah.
rumination, depression. And I like what you say in here, Caroline, where you said it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you, that you have these things. And it's a challenge to just focus on them. And you say 5 steps can help you go out into the world from a different place.
That's it. That's it. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to share about this. And I agree with you. If we don't get our mind under control,
Yeah.
our life is a mess because everything is driven by our mind. And, I've been in this field for 40 years now and nearly or 38 years now. And I tell you, we do not focus enough on mind.
Yeah.
I'm a neuroscientist, so there's tremendous amount of research on the brain, but the brain is not the mind. The mind drives the brain. The mind tells the brain what to do. The brain is reliant on the mind, but we're not focusing sufficiently on mind. And that's why I do the work that I do, to try and help people understand what the mind is and the fact that you do have agency over your mind. And that
you talk about being kind of the designer of your
Yes.
mind management. You actually have a graph in here, which I thought is so cool. It's kind of like an org chart for your mind.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you can actually control your mind because your mind is basically how you think and feel and choose, and your mind is not your brain. And in today's narrative, there's a lot of conversation around the mind and the brain being the same thing. And I mean, I have a little model here of the brain, and we are not our brain, but people talk about the mind and the brain being the same thing, but they're two separate things. And I think the biggest thing in understanding mind and getting anxiety and depression and things under control is to understand that difference. Because if you think you are your brain, the message and the narrative of today's mental health world, which has been developing over the last 40 years. And it's a very, very unscientific and a very negative narrative. And it is that if you feel any kind of emotion, like anxiety or depression, that there's something wrong with you, that you have a broken. But there's not something wrong with you. You don't have a mental illness. You're just being a human experiencing adverse life experiences and responding to adverse life experiences. So depression, anxiety, those are symptoms of an underlying something going on.
Right. So you say that, and you have these kind of 5 steps to deal with, as you say, the something that's going on.
Yes.
And what I like what you say in here, Caroline, is that you said this is not self-help.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it if it's not self?
This is basically basic understanding. It's how we as humans. Okay, let me explain it like this, and then I can explain the 5 steps as well. The difference between you and I and the viewers watching us now, and the difference between us and a dead person is our mind. So our mind is our aliveness, and our aliveness enables us to experience life. And we can't get away from that. Our mind is always functioning. So if we're not managing our mind, our life can get really messy, and we can get stuck in the messiness of life, and then we can get caught up in these feelings of anxiety and depression and ruminating and people pleasing and you name it, panic attacks, and think that we have no control, because that's the current narrative today. We're being told as soon as you have any of those experiences, there's something wrong with you. But there's not something wrong with you. It's actually you responding to the adverse experiences of life. So your mind is this ability that we have to think and feel and choose in response to life. And it starts when we wake up in the morning, our mind is with us. When we go to sleep at night, our mind is with us. It's always with us. So my argument is, or my proposition is, that if mind is always with you, then we need to manage it on an ongoing basis. And that's essentially what I mean by mind management, that your mind is working anyway, but if you don't manage it, it's going to go all over the place, and we're going to be believing all these false narratives that we build because our mind's very experimental, and we've got a wise mind and a messy mind, and the messy mind's very experimental, and if that dominates and we don't manage it, we can get very messy in our life.
Right. So if you wake up with a messy mind, and so many people have come through the pandemic, right, with incredible, or I wouldn't say, probably not mind management. Their minds have gone all over. What if I've lost my job? What if I can't pay my rent? I can't pay my rent. What if I can't feed my kids? What if my kids don't go to school? There's this rumination and projection, and you have not 5 simple steps, but you have 5 management techniques to actually help you control, structure your mind. Can you walk us through those 5 steps?
Absolutely. So it's basically how you drive your mind. So it's literally I call it the neurocycle. And essentially what we can do is we can train ourselves. Our mind's very malleable. And these 5 steps of the neurocycle train you to become self-regulated, literally every 10 seconds while you're awake. So it's a very deliberate, and this is a very, the basis of all of these 5 steps and this whole concept of mind management is very, very scientific. I mean, there's 38 years of research
Right. You have
behind
a lot of science in
yeah,
here.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of science in there. So it's
Yeah.
essentially how it's not a technique, it's not a therapy, you can do you can still do all the wellness techniques and prayer and meditation and everything in it, but it's basically how do you get your mind regulated? How do you get your wise mind, which is a wired for love mind, which is the natural design of how we are, in controlling our messy mind, which is it's not a bad thing, the messy mind, but it's a bad thing if it gets out of control.
So
So
walk us through it, Caroline. So
yes.
like
So
wake up. Okay, I wake up with my messy mind. What's the first thing I
the
do?
first thing you do is you need to the mindset that you come into this whole approach with is that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. So there's no judgment. It's being very, very kind to yourself. So the mindset that you approach the 5 steps is one of kindness. The very first step is to gather awareness. So it's and the words were very specifically chosen.
Gather.
Gather means that I'm controlling it. I'm not standing under an apple tree with all the apples falling on my head. I'm standing back and I'm gathering. So you
Right.
gather awareness of the signals in your life, because all the signals in your life, and there's 4 basic signals that I'm going to explain to you in a moment, but the signals in your life are telling you that there's something going on. So I'm going to hold up 2 trees and explain the 5 steps for these 2 trees. Okay, so here's a healthy tree and here's a
Yeah.
toxic tree. And
Right.
what we do with our mind is as we wake up in the morning, we start experiencing the events of life through our mind. So our mind is this energetic force that processes the information into the brain, and we build everything that we experience into these trees in the brain. They're made of protein. So thoughts are real. So with our
Right.
mind, we build thoughts. So if we don't if we don't do the neurocycle, the chances are we may be reactive and build a toxic thought. Or if we are more self-regulated, we'll build a healthy thought. The chances are, and I'll come to the 5 steps, I'm going to come back, circle back. There also are patterns in our life. So we may wake up in the morning and
Right.
start the day fine, but we see that we always get upset about something, or we're very depressed, or we're anxious, or whatever. There's patterns in our life that come from traumas, pandemic, trauma from childhood, trauma from
Right.
whatever.
Right.
We all have traumas. Okay, so what we want to do, let's say it's first thing in the morning, we wake up, we want to immediately put on this mantle of kindness. That's how we've got to approach ourselves and how we've got
Okay.
to approach the day. And that changes all our neurophysiology and makes us into much more resilient and much more intelligent and much more introspective. And then we can tune into this deep wisdom that each of us have inside of us. So then you stand back, and let's say now that you read an email, you grab your phone and you read an email and it throws you and you completely
Right.
upset by the email. So immediately you gather awareness. So instead of it now throwing you off for the day, which it's so easy to do and it permeates into everything else, you stand back and you think, okay, let me pick the apple. Let me gather the first warning signal. I'm upset. So the first warning signal is the emotional warning signals. So I'm gathering awareness of signals. What are the signals? Emotional first. So that would be like depression or anxiety or upset or frustrated or irritated. So you grab that and you literally think about putting those in your basket. Think of them as apples
So
that you
you're
keep on.
also, it's very important here to go slow, correct?
Yes, you don't rush this. Yeah.
Now you write about that in the book of responding immediately,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you're actually advocating with these 5 steps time.
You're
Slow it
training.
down. You're
Yes.
training yourself to gather, to
Then
reflect,
reflect. Then reflect. So whatever you've
don't
gathered.
respond, don't
Yes.
respond.
Don't
So
respond. First, go through the process, because as you go through those 5 steps, each one progressively is getting your neurochemistry under control. It's getting more oxygen to the front of your brain so you're less impulsive and that your
right.
decision making improves.
I
It's
love
getting
that.
the 2 sides of the brain to work together so that you have more cognitive flexibility and deeper intelligence. So what you're doing with the 5 steps is you're turning yourself into a responder that's controlling the situation, as opposed to a reactor that is being controlled by the situation.
Caroline has in the book words I think that are very easy to remember. You talk about becoming a first responder yourself, right? So you have
Yes.
woken up, you gather yourself, you may be triggered, you reflect. Number 2, take
Yeah,
your time, don't respond. And this is good for any part of your life, right? Because
any
you're going to
part of
go
your life.
out into the world gathered, paused, reflective, right? You talk a
Yes.
lot about writing things down, which get
emotions out of the
Yes,
body and
yeah,
onto the
and there's
page.
different ways that you write, yes. And then you read, so yeah, so it's exactly that. So Maria, you're quite right. You're going to work through the 5 steps to get yourself going in the morning. And I always recommend that you do the first 15 minutes of your day, that you actually, even while you're getting ready, you can do these 5 steps while you're getting ready. But just in terms of explaining the 5 steps, you're quite right. So the first step is to gather each of those signals, the emotional,
Yes.
the physical, what are you feeling in your body? What are your behaviors? How you respond, what are you doing? And then
Right.
you can reflect. Reflect is asking, answering, and discussing. It's the why questions. Why am I feeling this? Why am I doing this? Why is this in my body? So you start digging deeper to find out the reasons, because you want to find the root of the source. The source of whatever you are experiencing has a source. The way you show up, it is always a reason why. So the 5 steps are taking you to the reason so that you can reconceptualize it into something healthy. So
Beautiful.
the third
Beautiful.
step is then there's 2 writing steps. So the third step is, after you've gathered and reflected, there's a lot of information that's coming up. So you just pour that onto paper. And the system that I teach you in the book is called the metacog. And it's a way of writing. So it's a good idea to get a little journal, neurocycle journal, and just to write down your thoughts. Just pour it out onto the page. Messes, fine. Just get it out. Like literally vomiting your mind and brain on the page.
Right.
Then the
Right.
4th step is to go and sort that out. And what's very fascinating is, as you do this daily, if you do this daily and you work on one concept at a time, you will see more and more and more depth. So this is not a quick fix. It's not like I do 5 steps and I'm fine. This is, you see a pattern of depression in your life, or you see a pattern of getting upset, or imposter syndrome, or people pleasing, or getting irritated about the same sort of thing all the time. You see those patterns. So you don't want, there's a reason for those. So you want to sit down in the morning and go through those 5 steps of, and when the gather, the reflect, the write, and then the 4th step is rechecking. It's looking at what you poured out on paper, what you've dug out from the depths of your mind. And it's very, very enlightening. There's a lot of stuff like, wow, I didn't even realize I was thinking that or seeing that, and you sort it out. So the 4th step is a sorting out mental autopsy. I call it a recheck, where you're looking for patterns and activators and antidotes, and you're starting to change your perspective. And then the 5th step is a little kind of finish the work for the day, because it's limited time. You spend 15 to 45 minutes max on it for the day. And that's just a little action step that you do to now keep you from ruminating in that toxic, whatever that toxic issue is that you're working on, and keep you in a very positive space for the day. Because you're not going to fix this over one day. It takes 63 days to transform a thought into behavior change in our lives.
So, Caroline, tell us why, do you think people are experiencing more anxiety, more reactive thoughts, reactive reactions because of social media, because of the way people are living kind of 24 hours online, that people are just processing outward without any thought and just wanting everything to be immediate?
Oh, absolutely. In the last 40 years, we've had 4 major changes. And the one has been the advance in technology, which is obviously good. But the bad side is it's taken away that pausing, that slowing down, that this need that we have to think things through, which is how we designed. When we don't think things through, we create toxicity in the brain. And then the response will be anxiety. So, and there will be an increase in anxiety. It doesn't mean you have a brain disease. It means that you're not actually using your mind and brain correctly. And so your brain and body and mind are actually sending you signals to say, hey, survival is being threatened, because we're supposed to think things through. It kind of messes up the brain. It creates brain damage if you don't think things through. So that's one of the big changes. The other
so there's a question here, Carolina, but what is the final step? So like if you find yourself to closing out those 5 steps so that you're not ruminating all day long, a woman named Mama Researcher, how do you do step 5? And then how do you keep doing that throughout the day if you're in a business that's high moving and you're constantly triggered throughout the day?
Well, the 5th step is a little action step. So it's what did you get from that moment? So the 4 steps prior to that. So whatever you got from the gather, the reflect, the write, the writing stage, and the recheck will lead you to a point where you'll have a level of insight, and then you transform that into a simple statement. So it could be that you say, okay, I'm feeling depressed constantly. Those are my signals, and you start working through the physical. You write it down. You see, okay, you're depressed because you just just feeling very overwhelmed from the way that the pandemic has changed your life, which is a kind of very obvious thing, because on day one, you're not going to get to the depth. You're going to get just the big picture. And then each day as you go through, you're going to get more and more deep, more and more deep. So your first act of reach for day one, when you start this process, could be something as simple as, it's okay to be depressed. And you write that down and you tell yourself each time you go back and you feel, and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling guilty about feeling depressed and you're feeling, oh, there's something wrong with me. Now you feel even worse about yourself. You say, no, it's okay. This is depression is not a disease. It's a helpful messenger telling me that I need to deal with stuff in my life. And it's okay. I'm dealing with it. Tomorrow I'll work on the neurocycle again. So it's a very positive, very kind little statement that you say to yourself. And then you, every time you want to go back to the negative, you find yourself wanting to be drawn back to the ruminating around the negative, you then focus, you discipline yourself to focus, no, it's okay to be depressed. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm being a normal human. If people are depressed, everything's changed. It's quite normal to feel depressed around what's going on. And also you can say things to yourself like, since the beginning of time, mankind has battled with mental health problems. So it's not true to say 1 in 4 people have depression and it's increasing. It's truer to say 100% of people have depression. So therefore, I'm just being a human. This is just a human response, but I can't keep in that state. So I need to, it's a signal. So I need to, so it's those kind of statements that you want to make to yourself by day 3 or day 5, day 7 in the 21, because you work at you work at these 5 steps over 21 days. In the process of doing the 5 steps each day for 21 days, you will start getting to the root of the cause, and you will literally dig this up. And you know, when you pull a plant out of the ground or a weed out of the ground, it's going to die once you upend it. And you're going to transfer that energy into how do you want this to play out in your life. So by day 21, you would have discovered, okay, I'm depressed because I just can't do this and this and this. So you know the reasons, and this is what I do need. And then this is the new thought that you've reconceptualized.
But we have to, it's true, right? When you say 100% of people experience depression, many people experience, you know, really severe depression. They need medication. It's not enough for them to say, I just have a depressive thought today and I'm going to follow these 5 steps. They need medication to kind of get through their life, right? And also not shaming that.
Around that note, I'm not just saying that this is not taken away from therapy, but what you're going to therapy once or twice a week. The other 20, what are you going to do with yourself the other 24/7? So we have to regulate our minds. We have to not allow ourselves to keep going back to the rumination, but we also can't suppress. So this is a way that you can actually deal with the issues that are underlying how you are showing up in your life. And the more you do it, the more regulated you become. When it comes to medication, psychotropic medication are one of the 4 reasons why we have such a problem today. They don't fix the problem. They're not restoring a chemical imbalance, because if you're depressed, you don't have a chemical imbalance. What you have is an issue that's going on, that's manifesting as depression, and you need to take the time and have the support, time to process through, and then have the support of therapy. Depression, medication for depression is more, it's like an anesthetic. That's basically what they are. They're not fixing something that's broken.
But they're helping many people survive, right? They're helping many people get through really difficult periods in their life. They're helping many people come back from the brink of suicide, and in conjunction with cognitive therapy, in conjunction with these steps, in conjunction with feeling empowered, in conjunction with sleep and diet, all these things is what you're advocating, all of these things together, right? Clear up
medication, I don't advocate, but I would also never tell someone to just go off their medication. What I do recommend that people do is that they understand that psychotropics actually aren't considered medicines, they're considered drugs. And they're drugs that are anesthetic in nature. So what they do is, if someone's in a really bad place, they kind of numb the brain, but they don't deal with the problem, and they do have side effects. So what a doctor's supposed to be doing when they prescribe a medication is they're supposed to be giving an informed consent. That's a legal requirement. It's about a 14-page document that explains everything about the drug, and that it is addictive, does have side effects, it does have withdrawal. When you do come off it, there are withdrawal, and so you need to really weigh up whether you want to, because they're not things you can just stay on. They are very much it's much better to actually work through in terms of therapy and in terms of having a mind management system to actually go through the whole process of identifying why you feel depressed, what the cause is, the trauma, whatever that is. And And that's going to take time. That's not going to just go away in one cycle of 5 steps. This is a lifestyle. What I've shown in my research is that for behavior to change, for things to transform, you have to work in cycles of 9 weeks. It takes 9 weeks for a habit to form and for a behavior to change. And that's where support is so important. So what I'm advocating is therapy, and I'm advocating between therapy, you need to have mind management. So this doesn't replace therapy. This enhances therapy, because you're in therapy maybe 1 or 2 hours a week, but you're living with yourself 24/7. So this is how you live with yourself and how you process through the issues.
Yeah, I think it's so kind of, I didn't grow up with parents who talked about regulation, who talked about understanding trauma, who talked about self-soothing. This kind of wasn't part of the conversation when I was growing up, or even when I was a young woman.
Yeah.
And so how did this kind of come into the atmosphere? How did this come into the conversation? Because I think it's so important. It's so empowering to know that you can manage your mind, that you can stop rumination, that you have the power within you.
Agency, yeah.
Right. That this is something, is this that the research wasn't there, that we didn't know enough about it, we didn't know enough about attachment? Why is that?
Well, what's happened is that in the last 40 years, there's been a huge awareness around brain science that has, and it's been excellent, but it's also been negative because it's put all our emotions into the biomedical model, which means that there's been a tremendous focus on, if you feel depressed or anxious, there's something wrong with your brain, you have a mental illness, and they compare it to something like cancer or diabetes. Now, that's not there's no good science behind that, but it's become a dominant narrative. Prior to that, 40 years before that, mind and brain were seen as separate, but mental health was tended to be dealt with in a much actually more holistic way. There was actually a healthier way of dealing with mental health issues, but it wasn't spoken about in the public arena. So what we've gone backwards and forwards at the same time. Now we talk about more in the public arena, but the narrative around it in the public arena is not as good as it could be, because it's made us more like machines, and you can just, there's something broken and you can just fix it. But that's not the case, because we've got to look at a person's narrative. So what's good about the current day compared to 40 years ago is that we are talking about it more. That's excellent. And what's wrong about the current day is that there's a very dominant philosophy that's actually not at all scientific, and that is that we are it's all about the brain. The brain made you do it. So it's some neurobiological brain disease. So if you're feeling depressed, it's because there's something wrong with your brain or something wrong with your genes. Now, that is not solid science. But that has sent a message to people thinking, I'm broken. Now, if you're feeling depressed because you've just lost a loved one and a whole lot of money, and your whole life's gone upside down in the pandemic, and maybe prior to that there were already issues in your life and relationships, and this is just added to that, that's adverse circumstances. It's understandable that you're very depressed. But then to get told, if you go to a doctor, that you also have clinical depression and there's something wrong with your brain, that's adding insult to injury. It doesn't honor your story. What we need to be doing is speaking about our narratives, allowing a much more open discussion around, I feel like this because of this. So for example, let's say that there's a group of people and you're having a dinner party and your friends will come over, and you turn up and you say, I've just been to my psychiatrist and they've just given me a clinical diagnosis after 15 minutes of clinical depression and put me on multiple medications. Immediately, everyone at that dinner table doesn't quite know how to deal with you. But if you did it this way around, now you cancel that scenario, and scenario 2 is you come to the dinner party and you say, hi guys, gosh, this week has been insane. This happened and that happened and that happened. And it just brought back all these flashbacks and I felt so depressed. And people will lean in because you're telling your story and they can relate, and they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. And yes, this has happened to me and I felt like that. And so what we do there is, the second scenario is we normalize our emotions, and we normalize that we feel the way we do because of what's going on in our life. The other scenario that's very dominant now is that if you're having a weird emotion, depression is not weird, but it's seen as something that's wrong, and it's seen as an unhelpful emotion, so it needs to be suppressed. But actually it's not unhelpful, it's very helpful. It's a helpful emotion because it's a message telling you that you need to pay attention to what's going on in your life and what has been going on, and you need support in that process.
I think that's the key, right? You need support in your process. You talk about that in your book, and you have so many blurbs in here from so many people talking about these simple and scientific solutions to overcome unhealthy thinking. And I think the other thing that I like what you're saying, Caroline, is that, you know, so many people blame other people, right? And we've all done it. You know, I'm this way
Yeah.
because of this, or I'm this way. But what you're really saying is that you can manage your emotions, you can manage your mind, you can put parameters around your thinking. Here are the steps. This isn't self-help. This is management, mind management.
Yeah.
This is your greatest asset, and make it work for you. Slow it down, get in control, develop a discipline. You talk about that too, about having the
Yes.
discipline,
Yeah.
disciplining your mind, taking the
Exactly.
time. And you believe that really, I kind of, at the end of the day, if everybody did this, what would be the big difference in the world?
Oh, huge. Yeah. We would have people that are kind to ourselves, and when we're kind to ourselves, we'll be kind to others. And kindness changes the atmosphere, changes how our brain functions, our body functions, and how we tune into other people. And it increases our intelligence and wisdom. So with mind management, we change how we function, and then we are more empathic and we are more tuned into others. And in a world that is able to listen and agree to disagree in kindness is a world that's very different to the one we're currently living in. So our hurry
Yeah.
society that's developed with the advances in technology and the move towards us being like avatars, being like machines, that combination has taken away the very strong human element of connection and deep, meaningful connection, and helping us all to manage our mind, because mind drives everything. Without mind, you're not alive. But so your mind is behind what you eat, your exercise, your choices, the way you read your email, the way you sleep tonight. Your mind is there. So if we don't understand that we have agency over our mind, that we have this messy mind that makes mistakes, but we have our wise mind, and we can use the two to work together to change our brain and change our body, which then you create this very positive feedback loop. When we do that, we then change how we function as an individual. And that has massive impact on others. You know, because people see the difference in you. One kind word can transform an entire meeting with 20 people that are going crazy. You know, you can calm them down with one kind word, demonstrating mind management.
It just seems that we're living in a very unkind world,
Yes.
right? I mean, it
Yes.
seems that rage is the winner of the day, that the people that are screaming the most, yelling the most, gotcha the most, get the most attention, um, have the most focus. How do you think we shift that narrative? How do we lower the temperature in social media, in our places of business? Is it by lowering the temperature inside of ourselves?
Definitely, definitely, because we all have a sphere of influence. I mean, just look at the platform that you have that influences people, and you bring out so much kindness through the work that you do. So
Mm-hmm.
already, you know, if you took just the two of us together, if you do the math, there's a scientists that have done the math that if you have two people together can change. I think it's something like two people can impact something like 7 million lives. Now you have the people we reach, and then they impact. So it doesn't take very long before you have you know, a few hundred people impacting lives. And it has this effect because, like we live in gravitational fields, we're not floating now because of gravity. This this is a complex concept. I'm going to make it very simple, but it will go
Yeah.
to the question that we're discussing and this concept we're discussing to show how powerful or as an individual how powerful we can impact others. Is we live in gravitational fields, so that keeps us from floating everywhere, but we also have our own unique gravitational field around us. That's an
Yeah.
electromagnetic field. This is Einstein's work, and that's your mind. A dead person doesn't have that, and that moves through your brain and your body. Now you and I are talking, and even though we're not physically next to each other, we are generating very positive photons. That's what Einstein would explain it as. We are generating very healthy photons backwards and forwards to each other in this conversation because we are agreeing on the same kind of concepts. If you and I were having an argument, you would have it would almost feel like, and you watch people in politics having arguments, it creates so much tension. Just think of of the time you've had an argument with someone. There's so much tension. You feel like you can cut the tension in the air, and it feels almost like someone's shooting something at you. Well, in the physics world, in the quantum physics, and when you look at
Yeah.
classical physics and gravitational fields, there is a disruption in that spiritual force. That, you can talk about spiritual force is actually gravitational fields. These all come together as the same thing. Science and spirituality are the same thing, but they're two sides of the same coin. I know you're very spiritual. And so it's very important that we understand that science and spirituality are two sides of the same coin. And so therefore you can't not impact others. The way that you are functioning is generating a whole lot of very positive or negative waves. So literally, if I'm totally toxic and whatever I think about the most grows, whatever humans think about the most grows. So this is growing in my brain. This is an act of proteins. Now this is toxic. This is generating toxic energy. Then you go, you know that feeling when you're around a group of people and they're all negative. You come away almost feeling like you need to have a shower or have a bathe or something, because you feel tainted. And that's because we're impacting each other. So coming full circle back, if we are self-regulating and we are catching ourselves when we snap at someone, or we're unkind, or we catch ourselves feeling depressed, and we actually work through that, and we tell our kids, and we tell our husbands and our friends, and husbands tell wives and that kind of thing, and say, listen, I'm feeling depressed because of this. Sorry if I reacted to you in that way, but this is what I'm going through, and this is how I'm managing it. When we lead that kind of life, we're being kind to ourselves, we're explaining to others, and we are creating a field around ourselves that is literally changing the atmosphere. So that multiplies. When two waves hit in the sea, they basically grow and get bigger and bigger. They enhance. So we are designed as humans. If you look at all the science, and you look at all the quantum physics, and you look at all the psychological work and the neuropsychological work, we are designed for enhancement, not competition. We have become a world that competes. But I can't compete with you, and you can't compete with me, because I'd make a lousy Maria Shriver and you'd make a lousy Caroline Leaf.
Amen.
If I celebrate you, I
Amen.
enhance you, and I enhance myself. So kindness, this whole philosophy is, it shouldn't be I need to be better than you, or I need to stomp all over someone else to survive. I need to enhance you. The more I lift you, the more I lift, the more I automatically lift. We enhance. So
I love that.
I'm trying to get people to move towards an enhancement culture, and it starts with yourself.
I love that. The power is within you. Caroline's book is Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, 5 Simple Scientifically Proven Steps. The book is already a bestseller. We're going to put it up in the Sunday paper. We're going to put this conversation up. I hope, Caroline, we can continue this conversation, because I think many times people think kindness is soft. And I have learned throughout my life that it takes discipline, it takes attention to stay focused on being kind, to stay focused on rising up and putting a mirror up to other people, as you say, to elevate them. Because that's what we want someone to do to us. We want someone to, be kind to us. And that when anybody, I always say to my kid, when someone's yelling and screaming at you, imagine what's going on in their own mind at themselves. So it's like back to the 4 agreements. Don't take something personally, right? It's never about you, but you do have the power to walk through the world differently. And I think that's what Caroline is giving us the structure for, the manifesto for: mind management, being a first responder, understanding yourself, understanding the roots. And I'm going to have that healthy tree in my head now for the whole time.
I know it sticks.
I love it. Thank you, Caroline, so much. I know we both have 4 children. I've followed you. You're doing really good work. And I know they work with you, which I think is wonderful. And congratulations on the success of your book.
Thank you so much. And it's so wonderful talking to you. And I love what you do. And I'd love to talk again. I'd love to keep this conversation going. And
wonderful.
Let's do that.
We'll kind of come up with something where people can kind of do maybe a 21-day challenge.
Yes, we could do that over a period of time. We could do daily over a period of time. I've done that before with other people, and it really works beautifully. We can we can actually work through patterns and teach people how to do it. It's really a great thing to do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and have a wonderful Easter.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, God bless.
So lovely meeting you finally. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye. There you go. Okay. Well, I think we went off. There we go. Well, Caroline left. The book is Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. We'll put it up in the Sunday paper. You will see it on Sunday, on Easter Sunday. And that's always look at Easter Sunday as a chance for rebirth, a chance to rise up, and a chance to lift other people up in your atmosphere as well. The book is called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. Somebody just asked me that, so I wanted to make sure you have that. These are just pieces of paper when I put little notes in the book when I'm reading it, but it's filled with a lot of scientific information, and best of all, it has a little org chart for your mind. So that's really great. Hi, Free Bird from Louisiana. I hope everybody has a wonderful Holy Week, a wonderful Easter. And remember, you have agency over your mind, over your behavior, and how you want to show up in the world. So challenge yourself to show up as the best possible version of yourself, and watch how other people react to that. Great. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks so much.